Hey guys, my name's Alex Forster and I'm with the Joyce agency, and today I have the pleasure to hang out with Michelle Stilley. Today we're going to have conversations with Joyce agency. So Michelle, tell me, what are we going to be looking at today?
Today we're going to look at some of the sensor products that Sloan has available, which is obviously really important in our market these days, so that we can be as hands-free in the bathroom as we possibly can.
That sounds actually pretty important with all the COVID stuff going on right now. So
Yes,
I feel
for sure.
like a lot of people will be looking for this.
Yes, we've had lots and lots of conversations here in the past few months, with everyone from, facilities managers, architects, engineers, everybody throughout the entire chain, as far as what the different options are, what makes sense. And so we're kind of here to go through some of that with you guys today.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So it looks like we've got our flush valve here, and we've got a bunch of accessories to go with it. Michelle, walk me through, what are all these accessories?
So when it comes to retrofit, these are great options here because they are very simple side mounts that you can take a standard flush valve and kind of retrofit these right onto it. So I have kind of 4 different options for you guys to look at. The first one here is the Smooth, and it's very, very simple. It's got a little pivot latch here, and it literally slides over the valve handle and assembles and attaches to it. So this is a really easy, quick installation to transition. And what's nice is this has a true mechanical override. So if the batteries go out in here, you can still flush the toilet.
Nice. So directly over the handle, I don't even have to take off a handle to make this work.
Nope, you don't have to take off the handle.
Wow, I don't think you can make it any easier than that.
Well, we try.
Oh.
We do our best.
That's awesome. Okay.
All right, the next one that we have up, this is our SMO. This one we do have to remove the handle to replace it, but it just kind of slides right on, and after you turn the water off, it's relatively easy to do. You take this nut, handle comes off, and then we attach that here. So relatively easy. This is fully battery operated. It is not a true mechanical override. It does have a courtesy flush here, but again, once the batteries are dead, we definitely need to make sure that that gets replaced.
So on this one then, the courtesy flush, if my batteries run out, it's not going to operate?
It is not going to operate.
Okay, good to know.
Yes, so that's definitely one that we want to keep on our checklist, like a little bit higher on our checklist as far as how often do those batteries need to be replaced.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, so the next two, these are kind of partners. This is a single-flush side mount, say that 5 times fast, and the dual-flush side mount. So essentially they're the same, only you'll notice when you look at the side, this has 2 buttons, a green one for a more eco-flush, versus this one just has the single, right? And so again, this is where we are going to still take off the handle, and then we can simply mount this to the side of the valve. So again, it's still a relatively easy change out, but it gives you the option of here where also, you'll notice this body is a lot bigger than our SMO. This is going to allow us the sensor capabilities as well as still having that true mechanical override minus having the handle like we have on the Smooth.
Okay, so we've got a single flush, true mechanical override, we can press that in, and then we've got a dual flush here.
That's correct.
Now, let me ask, once we've actually taken these side mounts and placed them on here, do we have to do anything else? Is it like, hey, I got to change out a diaphragm or change anything, or is that it done?
Anytime that you go ahead and do anything to the valves, like especially if we're going to change these out, we would typically recommend that we go ahead and change the diaphragm. And Alex, do you want to show us how to do that?
Sure. So when changing the diaphragm, obviously this is going to be a little harder than hand tight, but go ahead, you get your tool, and just going to throw it out there, Sloan actually makes some specialty tools, making it easier to take these off and making it a much easier time. So but I'm going to thread this off real fast here. Ooh. Take off the top, and then we've got the diaphragm right there. Now as far as this diaphragm, is this still the same diaphragm, or do we swap this to a different one?
You're really only swapping it to a different one if you're going to change the volume of the flush or if you're going to go from a single to a dual flush. Otherwise, we still recommend that you would change it to a newer one just so that it's a little bit easier to manage the maintenance on the units.
Gotcha. And I mean, from my point of view, I would think if you're going to be messing with all of this, is it good just to go ahead and switch out all the rubber parts and gaskets at this point? Or?
Never going to hurt.
Yeah, okay. So very cool. So these are great options. Looks like it would be really easy. I mean, I can't imagine this is too tough. Turn off water. Either we're going to leave handle on or we're going to take the handle off. We're going to just slap it in, and at that point we're good to go. I mean,
that's pretty much it.
Doesn't get easier than that.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, what else do we have today?
Well, let me show you.
All right. So we have 3 new options here, and looks like these are a couple different options when it comes to actually making it hands-free again. How are these different than the side mount that we actually looked at earlier from install? Walk me through what would we do differently for these?
Okay, so again, you know, with the side mounts that we looked at a minute ago, those basically kind of replaced or went over the handle. Here, we're actually going to remove the handle. So again, we're shutting off the water and clearing the lines, and then we're going to remove the handle here, and just a simple cap to replace that, right? And from there, we just need to figure out which configuration is going to work best for our application, whether it's a water closet or a urinal. Obviously, the urinals, we only need a single flush, and we have a variety of flush volumes available for that. When we look at the water closets, we could do a single flush or we could do a dual flush. So the first one that you'll see here is our basic, just a single flush flush valve head, and that actually replaces, Alex, if you want to take that off for me.
Sure. Spin that off again. All righty. Now, do I have to do more? I would think you'd have to remove this.
Yes.
Yeah, so remove that. And are we using the same diaphragm for this, or is this going to be a different diaphragm?
That's going to be a different diaphragm.
Okay, so we've actually got a separate diaphragm right here. This is a actual flex tube diaphragm. We want to use this when it comes to the electronic head. So I'm going to just snap that right in there.
Right, and this pops right on, and I'm not gonna fully screw this on, but so that basically just threads right onto the valve itself, and you now have a sensor.
Gotcha, okay. So now, one thing you said in there that I want to make sure I understood is you talked about the different pieces or different fixtures that you'd actually be putting this on. So talk to me, urinal versus toilet. Am I using the same one? How are they different? Do they look the same?
It's essentially the same head, just a different volume, a different flush volume when we're talking about the single flush.
Okay, so essentially I'm giving you the gallons per minute, and I'm getting that kind of diaphragm with a single flush head, so it's still going to be the same configuration.
Yep.
Perfect. And now you may have mentioned battery operated on this.
So for the retrofit, we do typically see the battery operated, but there are different configurations if you're looking at a new install or maybe a major renovation where you're working into the wall where you could hardwire it also. But typically what we see is for a quick change out is going to be the battery operated. And the nice thing is it's AA battery. So we try and make it really simple and easy for you guys to change out.
Nice. All right, so now between this one and the single flush head, so this you said was our dual flush?
That is our dual flush. So as you saw in the previous when we did the side mounts, you'll notice that this also has the green button. They do also have these what we call a courtesy flush because these are sensor, so they will operate on their own in a time capacity. So there's no cameras or gremlins in here, like paid attention to what's going on in the bathroom. It works off of a timer, so 60 seconds or less will give us a light flush. Anything more will give us a full flush automatically. And then again, if something isn't configured right, the batteries are dead, you can always have the courtesy flush. And
yeah, so essentially what you're saying is that the sensor is actually telling it what kind of flush to do. So if I'm sitting in front of the toilet for a while, it's going to do one type of flush, and even longer, then it's going to give me a second type?
Yes.
Okay, nice, perfect. And then again with this, based off gallons per minute?
Yes.
Okay, so we'd get our different gallons per minute. Now, this third one, this one looks a little weird, little different. Talk to me about this. What is this one?
So this is actually a solar panel flush valve. It's the photovoltaic, same thing that you're used to on your desktop calculator, right? So it actually works off of the number of foot candles in the space. So you don't have to have direct sunlight for it to charge, but what this does is it extends the life of the batteries that are in there by a significant amount of time so that you're not constantly having to change batteries. This is great in a high traffic area, like a convention center or something like that, so that you're not constantly having to service them. It's definitely going to be a little more eco-friendly because again, we're not having to constantly change out those batteries on a regular basis.
Nice. So essentially, you said this is the exact same type of solar panel that's on my calculator back in like elementary school?
Yes, and
Huh.
you know, if you happen to still have a calculator and you're not using your phone at home.
So, and that means it's working off the same ambient light that's coming on in the bathroom. What happens though if you have a bathroom and it has a timer on it and it's shutting down? How is that working there?
So we don't typically find that that tends to be a big issue because again, it doesn't need a lot of light exposure to start charging the panels, but it also has batteries in there too. And we use the batteries regularly to help make the connections, but it is also our backup. So, you know, as long as those batteries are good, you know, if this is put into a restroom that doesn't get the lights turned on for 3 months because it's in a school or something, we're not going to have any issues with that as long as those batteries are still good.
Gotcha. So it's going to use solar power first and then battery backup.
That's correct.
Okay, very cool. And I see that there were 2 little buttons on the front. It's probably hard to see this on the video. One has a single droplet, the other has 3 droplets. What are those?
So this version specifically is our dual flush head. So similar to what you see here, only the buttons aren't green. But those are also courtesy flush buttons that are available for the units. But this is also available in a single flush also.
So now the buttons don't feel like they really push in. How does that work?
So as opposed to here where we have a manual button, these are capacitance buttons. So it's just that, you know, the electricity from your fingers kind of help make that connection.
Gotcha. Are you going to feel like a little click or anything on that, or?
You'll hear a slight click in the valve.
Gotcha. So if it was single, would it just be one big button on here then?
That's correct.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, that seems like a really great option for a lot of people out there. So now, I guess I'm just curious, these seem like really easy, really quick, simple options. What happens though if you don't have the budget for something like this to do a full-out switch over to sensor? Do we have anything else to offer them?
We do. Let me show you those next.
Nice. Okay, let's take a look at those. All right, so you were talking about we have some more options just in case sensor is a little bit out of our budget. Talk to me, what more options do we have here?
So there are always going to be some applications, whether it's just, you know, based on the location or based on budget, where sensor is just not going to be the right fit, right? And so we do have a couple handle options to consider when we're concerned about the bacterial aspect of what's going on in the restroom. So we've got a couple different options here that we're going to talk about. The first one here that we have is called our uppercut, and this is actually a dual flush handle. You'll notice it's green. We do that so people recognize that they have a choice. It's like it's something different. It causes them to pause and pay attention to what's going on, and it's very simple. You can actually do a full flush by pressing the handle down, or a light flush by pulling the handle up. And we like to default to the full flush being down because, you know, nobody really wants to touch the handles in the bathroom. And so we get a lot of the, I'm gonna karate kick it, or you get the little people's elbow trying to do that. And so we always wanna make sure that we're definitely clearing the bowl out. And so that's why if people aren't going to make that decision to save the little bit of water, we want to make sure that we're evacuating the bowl fully. So that's why our default is always to the down position. And I'm going to let Alex, because his hands are a little bit stronger, kind of show the difference. How that works is basically the distance that this pin comes out when it hits the diaphragm, and it changes the amount of water that is allowed to come through the valve.
So essentially you said that this little pin right here is going to tell it how far to come out, and that's hitting the diaphragm to flush it?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, when it comes to this, you know, as a consumer walking into a bathroom and seeing all of a sudden a green handle and being like, what is that? Is there any sort of like signage or anything, or how do they know how that works?
Anything that we have that's dual flush, we'll have 2 signs that come in the handles with the kits. So one can go behind the valve and the other can go behind the door. So if you're standing or sitting, you have a moment to kind of read and pay attention to what's going on. And what you'll see on there will reflect kind of what you'll see on the ring here, where you have the single droplet for a light flush and the 3 droplets for a full flush.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as the handle itself, you said it's not going to harbor any growth. What is that now?
Yes, so all of the uppercut handles have an antimicrobial coating. That's going to help inhibit the growth of bacteria. So it's not a perfect world, but it's a great option to give us a little bit step up. you know, in areas that we do have that concern for the bacterial growth.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I see we've got a purple one. Is this the same thing then?
So yes and no. The purple, we included this. This is our handle for reclaimed water flush valves. That's the purple ties into the color that we designate for pipe for reclaimed water, making sure people are aware it's non-potable. But the reason I pulled this out, because again, if you're working on a building that has reclaimed in it, this does provide that same antimicrobial coating for locations where we are concerned about the bacteria count in the bathrooms.
Gotcha. Now the handle's purple. Is anything else purple, or is it just the handle to signify the reclaim?
Yes, so we actually do have two other components of a reclaim system that does have the purple designation on it. The escutcheon on the back of the shutoff for the water, and then also the diaphragm on the inside. The diaphragm on the inside has been beefed up to kind of help manage and compensate for higher mineral counts and things like that in the water that we tend to find with reclaim systems. Mm-hmm. So we designated that purple, so if someone's going in to service it, then they need to change the flush valve out. They see it's purple and recognize that, okay, I need to pay attention and I can't just put my regular old diaphragm in. So.
Gotcha. So as far as flushing this then, if I go to flush this, is there anything special about it if I pull it up or pull it down? Or?
Nope, that is still designated as a single flush.
Okay, so this is just a single flush as opposed to the green is always going to be my dual flush.
That's correct.
Okay.
But again, both of those products will have that antimicrobial coating to help inhibit bacterial growth.
Gotcha. All right, and then now down here it looks like we've got one more option. It's hard to tell. What's the difference in this versus a regular handle?
So this is what we refer to as our CuVerro handle, right? And so CuVerro is a copper alloy that the handle is made of, and it's actually designed to continuously kill bacteria that is left behind from dirty hands. It can actually kill 99.9% of the bacteria within 2 hours of it touching that handle, which is great. And it's actually the only solid surface material that is registered with the EPA to actively kill bacteria.
Nice. So if I want to go ahead and install something like this on my flush valve, do I need to switch out anything else or switch out my diaphragm for this one or anything
Again,
special?
Anytime we're upgrading, it's always recommended to go ahead and change out the diaphragms, although it's not required. So if you have a relatively new flush valve, you may not need to do that. But if it's something that's been there for a couple years, you know, it's not going to hurt while you've already got everything shut down to go ahead and change that out.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, that seems like a really great option for somebody who maybe doesn't have that, budget for sensor, but it seems like in the future you guys can always upgrade to a sensor. I mean, this seems like it's almost plug and play, made easy, made simple. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to work everything's designed to work off of the same base. So it's user friendly, it's all easy to maintain, and again, it's really easy to upgrade and change out as you need.
Perfect. So we've essentially looked at this flush valve and have a ton of different products, ton of different ways that we can make this manual flush valve into a hands-free sensor product. But I mean, there's a lot of different options. Where do I start? Where do I begin? I mean, how would you kind of rank these, I guess?
So in my mind, I'm always going to start with the flush valve heads and going sensor this way. But you definitely want to consider it based on the location, the application, and just, obviously the budget is something else that needs to be taken into consideration when you're making the decision between all the different choices that we have.
Gotcha. So now say I am a building owner and I've got a bunch of flush valves and bathrooms in my building. I'll be honest, I don't even know what I have. I mean, it's if you ask me, it's a flush valve. Tell me, where do I get started? How do I know what would work and work for my application?
Well, and that's where I would tell you to reach out to us, reach out to the Joyce Agency. Here's our number down below. Give us a call. We would be happy to offer as a free service for somebody to come out to your building, either in person or we could do it virtually, and do a walkthrough of what you have, get some counts, kind of discuss, the use and the frequency of what you have that's installed in your building to kind of help find what's going to be the best fit for your change out.
Awesome. Well, that seems simple and easy. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for coming in today and sitting with me and kind of going through all this. I think this is a great wealth of knowledge. If you'd actually like to learn more or have questions on this, like Michelle said, please reach out to us. You can also reach out to us at our website at thejoyceagency.com. Go ahead and check us out under training. We'd be happy to also come out and just do in-person or virtual trainings, whichever works best for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for more of Talking with the Joyce Agency. Hope you have a great day.
Take care.